Hey everyone on YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is my third time making this video because my phone keeps falling from where I keep leaving it. Anywho, so this is my How I Survived Mercury Retrograde video. This is just from my own personal perspective. You take that for what it is. I'm not an astrologer. I only know what I know from Mercury Retrograde based on reading books on astrology and other similar materials. So this is all just how I try to survive, honestly. If you had talked to me at least, 6 or 7 or even 5 years ago, I would have said Mercury retrograde happens and I wouldn't have taken too much stock into it. I would have been like, oh, things just happen, things just come up from a very analytical, rational point of view. Well, I was wrong to take that view because I had one Mercury retrograde year where everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. From technology breaking to communication problems, travel issues, to everything just coming in all at once. And I didn't even check to see when Mercury was going to be in retrograde that year. I just thought it was weird and very strange that all these things are happening at once. It wasn't only until like a month later that I checked and Mercury was in retrograde during that entire time. I had like lost important travel documents. I thought I had, it was a crazy time. Technology breakdowns. I lost files. I lost important data by something breaking. It was a whole mess. I think that year was the year I had to move. It was crazy. And then afterward, I paid a little more attention after that. And now, when I look at Mercury retrograde, I just stare. I'm like, all right, buckle up, it's a ride. So the way I try to do it are keeping maybe 4 to 6 things in mind. First being, just because Mercury is in retrograde doesn't mean that it's an excuse to blame it on all the things. I try to keep that in mind all the time because I do say, oh my gosh, Mercury is doing it again. Mercury is messing with me. And it really is. But that means I have to be super mindful, which brings me to my second point. Being super mindful about all the things I say, all the things that I do, and all that stuff. Double checking my text messages and I'm sending it to the right person, backing up all my files, making sure my stuff's up to date, and backing up my stuff before I update all my phones and tablets and technology. Double checking my work. That's something I took major step 2 today because I turned in something major today. Also, making sure to take the time, just going into my third thing, making sure that I take the time to reflect on what's going on in my life and how I want to improve things after Mercury isn't in retrograde, how I can improve communication. And the fifth and sixth thing kind of go together. Focusing on divination, like divinatory methods. And I say that sounds kind of weird because Mercury's in retrograde, but I mean, it's astrology, right? But I kind of look at what sign it's in retrograde in, because I know it varies between sign and sign. I think this time it's in Capricorn. So I look at, looking at my sign, and then I also look at the sign that it's in. And then I look at that when I do divination in particular for each day or for each week to see what I need to focus on in terms of how Mercury is going to affect that. Whether it's organizing things, traveling, making sure I have, tickets purchased if I am traveling, or making sure stuff isn't getting lost or stolen, double checking shipping dates, tracking packages. And the sixth and final thing is to essentially be clear when you are communicating. And I know it kind of goes together. And I said it goes together with number 5, but be clear in how you're communicating. So even when you're doing divination or you're texting with somebody or you're double checking your stuff, you make sure that you look at I always look at past orders or the day that I ordered it to make sure the tracking number matches the tracking number that I see when it's shipping out on a package. And then when I do divination, I'm very clear about the questions that I ask as it is, but I'm even more clear and specific when Mercury is in retrograde. And that also extends to when I'm doing spell work during retrograde. during Mercury retrograde and the moon cycles and solar cycles. So when I'm doing spell work, especially it being a new moon today in particular, but let's say it wasn't in a new moon, it was in a different part of the moon, I would focus on, say if I'm doing something like banishing work, or I'm doing a binding spell, or I'm doing some kind of major spell working, I'm going to be aware of how Mercury might affect that in terms of how I'm crafting my spell when I'm casting my spell, what words am I using, so on and so forth. So, hope these tips are helpful to you all. This is just what I try to keep in mind when Mercury's in retrograde. And if you have any questions or comments on that subject, feel free to leave a comment below. If you like what you see, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you turn the bell sound on so you don't miss a video. Hope all are well, and speak to y'all soon. Many blessings.